So, hey, this is taking forever to come out, isn't it? Yeah. As many of you may know, this episode, the full episode, which is coming very soon, was actually supposed to be out before Really That Good for Transformers the movie. I delayed it when the tragic news broke about Zack Snyder and his wife Deborah Snyder. They lost their daughter during the production of Justice League, and that the film was he left the production. Had I kept to the original schedule, this episode would have been hitting very shortly after that happened. I decided I did not want that to be the case. It just felt like kicking the shit out of someone when they were down, and I didn't want to be involved in that. I actually just lost my own father about a week to the day before recording this video piece here. And so I can't even imagine what the Snyder family must be going through. One of the things that also changed in the writing of this was that the longer something stays out and is thought of as a generally bad film, as Batman v Superman pretty much is. I mean, listen, I know a lot of people, that there are fans of this that are very big into it, but the general cultural appraisal of this film was that it was garbage. I'm sorry. I am not in the outliers on this. Most of film critics, most of the popular culture was not fond of this movie. Maybe they didn't hate it, but it was not thought of as a great film. Sorry. And what ended up happening was that I had almost as much, if not more, answers to the common defenses of this movie material. Well, what about that you've already heard a million times because you've been marinating in the cultural maelstrom around this nonsense, as I did new, original to me breakdowns and analysis stuff. It's like it was almost equal. So eventually, the episode just kind of had to get divided into two halves, and the first half will be coming out on the regular schedule as it was originally supposed to come out. It's going to hit before Justice League is in theaters. Hopefully both of them will hit before Justice League is in theaters, but at the bare minimum, part one will hit before Justice League is in theaters. But since you've all been so patient in the waiting for it, it turned out that this one small segment from part one could actually be chopped out of it and presented as a sampling of the kind of tone and look that you're going to get in there. Specifically, this is a sequence where we're getting into the discussion of the structure of the film and why the structure of the film is all over the place and doesn't work, and that the story is convoluted and poorly told, and that the narrative is all over the place and shaky. And despite misgivings about going in this direction, the best way that I found to illustrate this was to compare it side by side with another film in the same genre, also a superhero team-up, that had a much stronger structure, even though they would both seem to be facing the same structural problems in terms of how do you lay out and introduce and play through this. And that film, you can probably imagine, was The Avengers. I'm sure that will not be a controversial comparison at all. But in any case, this is short. It only runs a couple minutes. This is a preview of Batman v Superman, Really That Bad, Part 1. This is the narrative structural comparison of that film to The Avengers. I hope you enjoy it, and the full episode will be coming very soon. Thank you for your patience. Looking at the story structure of these two seminal superhero team-up movies side by side, once again, not because they're overly similar apart from being team-ups, but because Avengers is the entire reason that Dawn of Justice and indeed the entire idea of the DC Extended Universe exists in the first place, using only the information that's necessary to comprehend each respective story.
He's found us, and he's coming!
Act 1. There's a big bad man out in space who wants the glowy thing, which is on Earth, so he sends regular Batman down to steal it from Pirate Spy, which he does after turning Arrow Man evil. Pirate Spy decides the best way to handle this is to get all the superheroes he knows together to get it back, a team that will include Cool Nerd, Science Monster, White Obama, and the Girl One. They successfully capture Badman and meet Space Viking, a good guy who is also Badman's brother.
He's adopted.
But there's two problems. He won't tell them where he hid the glowy thing, and the superheroes are not very good at being friends with each other. Act 2. Arrow Man shows up and helps Badman goad the superheroes into not liking each other even more than they already didn't, which makes Science Monster get mad and fight everyone so Badman can escape and carry out his evil plan. Everything goes to hell, the girl one has to beat up Arrow Man even though they're friends, and Badman kills the one normal guy everyone likes. This makes all the superheroes sad, which makes them get on the same page and decide to work together to save the world with the power of friendship, which basically means they're going to win because they have Science Monster. Act 3. Having pretty much won the minute Science Monster decided to be on the team, the superheroes engage in an extended, extra-long henchman fighting party because this is why they made the movie, and after 4 years and 5 movies of build-up, you're allowed to throw yourself a fireworks display. The superheroes decide to keep being friends. The big bad man in space is told that he should dial it back because there are superheroes on Earth who will fight him if he goes there, but instead he smiles, indicating that he must be a real scary dude because that seems like he thinks it'll be fun. The end. Straightforward, makes sense, balances its characters, bends the rules of a 3-act structure but doesn't break them, and delivers an experience that flows naturally and takes what liberties it does in the service of audience experience rather than, say, setting up the architecture for future movies. Even though it also does that, just more subtly. In fact, you can watch The Avengers without any particular compulsion to watch any of the other movies, or having seen the ones leading up to it, and still get a satisfying experience because it's a good movie first and part of a larger whole second. Meanwhile, so 30 years in the past, Richie Rich sees his parents get killed, which makes him sad until he makes friends with about 1 million bats. Several years later, Richie Rich has grown up into Mitt Romney, who gets really angry when a fight between Space Jesus and Beatnik Vegeta causes 9/11-2 and destroys a building where a bunch of his friends work. Is this Act 1? It feels more like a prologue, but it also takes place during the previous movie, so maybe that was the prologue and this is Act 1. Who can say? In any case, Act 1, Part 2 maybe, involves Space Jesus saving Veronica Corningstone from terrorists, but there's also a distraction mercenary who kills a bunch of people and runs away so everyone thinks Space Jesus killed them instead. This leads to what more or less has to be Act 2, right? In which Space Jesus gets moody and sad because people still don't trust him even though he keeps saving everybody. At the same time, Mitt Romney has reverted to his long-unused secret identity as Halloween Detective in order to mutilate small-time crooks and beat up slightly bigger crooks as part of an investigation into the activities of the evil Dr. Facebook.
Ahoy, ahoy! I did not know you were here.
Who is trying to trick the government into letting him have the magic rock, but instead settles for control of Beatnik Vegeta's body and the keys to the exposition spaceship. Actually, shit, maybe this is still Act 1 because it's in the present and the first 2 acts were in the prologue, but okay, Space Jesus decides that he doesn't like Halloween Detective either, and the two begin plotting to stop one another from doing the things that the other one doesn't like. In the course of this, Veronica Corningstone tries to investigate where magic bullets, used by the distraction mercenaries, came from, while Halloween Detective finds out that the mysterious Cameo Woman is also investigating the evil Dr. Facebook, who has begun using Beatnik Vegeta's body to do mad science in the exposition spaceship and turned Halloween Detective's wheelchair friend into an anti-Space Jesus activist for reasons of her own, and has a nightmare about Space Jesus destroying the world in the future with an army of grasshopper men, which is actually inside of a different nightmare in which not Grant Gustin appears out of nowhere to issue a vague warning which he takes to mean he has to kill Space Jesus. Okay, so we've come to a head. Confrontation on, end of act. Nope, there's a little more. Dr. Facebook sets off a bomb inside Halloween Detective's wheelchair friend while Space Jesus is testifying before Congress, which makes Mitt Romney so angry he upgrades his secret identity to Mecha Halloween Detective and steals the magic rock from Dr. Facebook so he can kill Space Jesus.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race, and if we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
End of Act 2, Part 3 or 4 or... No, wait, also Veronica Corningstone figures out that Dr. Facebook gave the magic bullet to the distraction mercenary, but when Space Jesus confronts him, he says he'll kill his mother, Kansas Woman, unless he fights Mecha Halloween Detective, and also he's the one who's manipulated all of this to happen because he was abused by his father, which made him hate God, which also means he's racist against aliens. End of Act 2, I think? Oh, and also Halloween Detective sends Cameo Woman proof that Dr. Facebook knows her secret identity is Wonder Cameo, and about the existence of not Grant Gustin, Mermaid Man, and Human Transformer. Anyway, Space Jesus and Mecha Halloween Detective have a big old fight in which Halloween Detective wins, but before he can kill him, Space Jesus reveals that their mothers have the same name, which makes him pause long enough for Veronica Corningstone to arrive and reinforce the idea, which convinces Mecha Halloween Detective to be regular Halloween Detective again, and also that killing is bad. Central conflict over, villain now easily defeatable, so that should be the end of Act 3, more like Act 5, but I stopped even counting, and just the end period. but it's not, and the movie starts up all over again, just like the second Jurassic Park movie, because Dr. Facebook has a second plan entirely detached from the whole make them fight plan, which kind of makes this either Act 4 or an entirely new Act 1, but okay, new Act 1, Space Jesus and Halloween Detective are now friends and teamed up. Halloween Detective goes to rescue Kansas Woman, Space Jesus confronts Dr. Facebook, who has transformed Beatnik Vegeta into Evil Hulk, who they both fight but can't defeat until they're joined by Wonder Cameo. New Act 2, all three heroes fight Evil Hulk but are unable to kill him. Veronica Corningstone throws away the Magic Rock Spear, but then they all realize at once that it could have been used to kill Evil Hulk, so she almost drowns trying to get it back. Space Jesus saves her and decides to use the spear to kill Evil Hulk, which also kills him. Begin Act 3, or maybe unusually lengthy epilogue. Dr. Facebook is arrested, but not before he goes crazy, because the exposition spaceship showed him a projection of the Evil Lord sequel. Space Jesus has two funerals. Halloween Detective confronts Dr. Facebook, who threatens him with the impending arrival of Lord Sequel, which leads Mitt Romney to tell Cameo Woman that they should form the Super Friends in case he's telling the truth, and also Space Jesus is probably not dead. Yeah, can't see why people thought that was a little convoluted.